Well, ani bonjour, watche. Hello, good morning, Minigijap. Good morning, Sioux Lookout. The revolution is being broadcast live from here, Sioux Lookout. I'm Elliott Doxtater-Wynn, Anishnaabemowin. My name is Elliott Doxtater-Wynn. You are listening to INDigital Voices Radio, right here on the Wassa Distance Education Network from the downtown heart of Sioux Lookout, Ontario. The hub of the north, as they say. So we're here this morning, and just to start off, as in always, because everything in our life is ceremony. We bring to it, even having your morning coffee to warm you up, or even just taking out your medicines. We even have some here, and then, but we're listening to. We just want to go in a good way. Proceeding. And I want to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the First Nations of the Anishinaabe people of Lac Seul First Nation. This show is dedicated to the survivors of the residential schools, their children, and any of those who have not survived the effects of those schools. But, of course, INDigital Voices is also here to support language and cultural reclamation in education for all First Nations people of our listening area and across Turtle Island. There you go. So, on today's show, we do have special guests in the house, as they say, in the house. Yeah, master linguists and knowledgeable knowledge keepers, Dr. Rhonda Hopkins and Jeremiah Sawanis are going to be here, and you can see him gracing our studio at the moment. But we're going to be speaking to him in just a few minutes. And we'll have a little bit of music, more conversation, and we're going to be rounding out the show with another chapter of the 2-minute story, Smudges of Red. Then we'll be out of here just in time for our lunch break or the rounding out the hour. So this is it's so exciting. It's like waiting for a roller coaster, like waiting in line. You know, you're waiting there and you're like, this is a bad idea, and you're looking at how big the roller coaster is, and you're like, yeah, no, maybe I should go. And then you're like, no, what happens if I have a heart attack or die or I fall out or something? And then all of a sudden you look up at the front, and there's 80-year-old woman in the row, and then you're like, then you see another kid who's like 9 years old, and you're like, okay. So I'm not that scared. Let's put it that way. This is going to be interesting, and we'll be right back in a moment with Dr. Rhonda Hopkins. That was a little excerpt from The Difference, which is a short film that I helped do the musical score for a few years ago, and it calls out to the land to say, did we make the right decisions? And so right now, I think our good decision is having our next guest, a much respected and valued team member of Kenjigewin Tech in Chaging on Manitoulin Island. Our next guest is a fluent Anishnaabemowin speaker from Wikwemikong unceded territory. Dr. Rhonda Hopkins is known by many across Turtle Island as a lifelong, passionate educator in Anishnaabemowin. Rhonda's commitment as a lifelong educator in the language has been officially recognized by the World Indigenous Nations University, as well as an honorary doctorate from Queen's University. Here's a part of her acceptance speech from the convocation last fall.
Anishnabemowin is polysynthetic. We have a word in our language, kendasa, which most people will translate to be smart or to be intelligent. But when you look at the semantics of this word, the root word comes from the word nendasa, which means relationships. In the natural laws of creation, we as Anishinaabe people understand our relationship to Wikwemikong, Mother Earth. In this understanding, we know that there's nothing by our own means to be intelligent, but by our relationships in the environments we find ourselves in.
That was part of the acceptance speech given by Dr. Rhonda Hopkins when she was receiving her award in Kingston, Ontario this last fall. And even though she's a doctor, she has a serious and yet positive outlook in the importantly critical Anishnaabemowin work she's doing. She balances it with her warm Anishinaabeg humor and laughter, making her a treasured and valued mentor, educator, mother, grandmother, and great grandmother. And she's speaking to us from Little Kern, Ontario, on Manitoulin Island. Being again, Ani, bonjour, Dr. Rhonda Hopkins.
Bonjour. Bonjour. Fernando, you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. You,
Nahau.
you are live to Northwestern Ontario. We're this is Indigenous INDigital Voices. When we're broadcasting from downtown Sioux Lookout. We also have Jeremiah Sawanis, who we're going to be speaking to in a little bit. But right now, could you introduce yourself and about the language you share?
Well, I guess you could say what kind of you've done sabon. It's been many years I've been working with language, probably 45 plus years. And up to na the shenjina kit mamanda. Up to go saga from which Anishnabek. Nibdan sapon gawin tiasi nandi yinwa. Washe machishkan, washe namachishkan, kitguna. Midashmande, egan chebnigwa, Nidwanagini, the wheeling, day. We chinakit mamanda. We've got the dem when the gego ishkini guy, Wikwemikong. So the thing that pushes me to do the work that I do for the many years that I've done it is the love for our people. You know, our people have, our Anishinaabe people, they've gone without for so many years. And so the little bit that I can do is to help with the language now, especially for our young people. Niwa.
Oh, and then so is that your main focus with younger people?
Well, no, it's not because it's the passion. You have to have passion. You have to go big weekend lecture or na zak toy go midas non get nakitaman. So you have to have a passion in order to work towards something in a good way. So it's just not young people. Can I go ya? Na bekishin da knomage na chiknomage tam go mi sure do bakta shniv na shni guys are go gay no other no chi and do ni da shkondak I guess to see now in Anishnabemowin. Ni da shenche and to gancha go again ekukskitongana. So because I teach in a higher learning, I really see a lot of people coming in, and some of them are not just young people, but some of them are adults that have children of their own, and they can't speak the language.
And so in your, like you were saying, you've been in this for 45 years. Was there a lead up to that, to your career in education, or like how was it, like how would your mom have supported you in like following this path, or was that even a thing?
Oh, that no, it just kind of I just went one day to ask a close by First Nations community if they want to learn the language. I know they didn't have any speakers, so I just went over there. Says, "Do you want to learn?" They said, "Yeah, we do." I says, "When you want me to start?" This one on Thursday night. He says, "Monday morning." and I had nothing. I thought I'd never taught ever before in my life, and I went to the school where they told me to go. I walked in, and the principal took me to a room, and with grade 4 and 5. And then she left me there. We just got to go wait, and when she to go to I thought, what should I do? Me just be na doing ma, deep quendandas. Jem the do kiminek nish ninjin. We get in kiminek, skis gun kiminek. I'm feeling big. And I thought about the wheel. Uh, so I thought about, okay, principal brought me into the classroom. Okay, teach, and she left. And I never had any teaching experience. And I quickly thought to myself, the Creator gave me two hands, my body, my eyes, and thank goodness this place where I can draw pictures on the wall. And so then that's where I started. And now people make a big thing about TPR, total physical response, but Anishinaabe do that all the time. Traditional mageo, they show things. That's how we learn. That's where a kano mage comes from. A kano mage. Ah, because most of our words are eh, oh, at the beginning of our words, the old way of speaking. And that's the breath of life. We give life when we say those words. So ake is the earth. And kinomage comes from the word, the root word, jinomage, to show. So a kinomage really doesn't mean to teach. A kinomage means to show you using the earth, whatever that looks like. And I'm not just talking about the ground, but the trees, the waters, skies, the universe, the stars, kinagolego. And so we show by doing that. So it's
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? That's a good little a great way to start our conversation, and I'm going to bring in our second guest so we can build on our discussion here, and so we're going to pump the brakes a little bit to welcome our new guest, and in studio here in Sioux Lookout we have Jeremiah Sawanis. He was born on the land, a midwife bringing him into the world in the spring of 1952. Oh, it's almost your birthday. Pretty soon.
Yes.
Yeah, and he speaks Anishininowin, which is the entire language all its own. And while working, he has facilitated linguistics consultation for a dictionary. He's had different projects that he's been working on over the years. We'll let him elaborate on that. But he's also a broadcaster at Wawate Radio Network here in Sioux Lookout. As well as being a radio broadcaster, he's been an instructor for 32 community stations. And his goal is to help Turtle Island work out its living problems with all her people. And he brings his language, communication, and wisdom to us here today. Welcome to our studio, being again, Mr. Sawanis.
Miigwech, miigwech.
It's interesting. I've lived in Sioux Lookout for a few years now. And whenever you refer to a man or a woman, it's proper. So it'd be Mr. Sawanis or say Mrs. Wynn. Right?
Yeah.
You always refer to them, and everybody knows who you're talking about too, which is interesting. But well, some of our listeners might recognize you, but for the new listeners and people logging in, can you introduce yourself and about the language you share?
I am from Sandy Lake First Nation, miwete ka Bounchian. Miwete ka genis apenuko bichikosit ka tatayan. He Mugipinando Abman Gewich Wijiugut when Akinumagab Sadang. He came looking for a person that could travel with him in his life journey. And that's where he found my mother in Deer Lake. And then he moved because his daughter married into Sandy Lake, and he was concerned, about her being lonely, not having anybody there. He moved there to Sandy Lake First Nation. Ego das iwagapim netawagyan gainin mo siya kiko Anishininowin nagipinundan. As I was growing, I always heard our language Anishininowin, and with the skyak kainin ganin tawagyan mawat ko yakikno mag kagi umamayan. Biawe mayam gagi wiji shitchen sitaman kaini gagi minguan and nuyan. What is my voice going to be? that was what I found, that I had a great teacher in the language. And so fast forward, um, mo siya ko kenin an shinangi pikakwian ko kape anukian. I always try to work with First Nations wherever I worked. Ikotas mi magagian in Sidawendaman iwetebwe again no demand of way ani in skagi magaki we pemat soon gamin ko nanda guys such gadik. That's when I realized how our lives are affected when something happens to us from the outside. And by that I mean, I didn't go to residential school myself, thank you to my family. But I remember we were talking, and one of the survivors said to me, "Kaunin nagastusin diyan sinimian," he said that to me in English, that he cannot speak his language. And this was the first indication of what that meant. We checked that when a mad soon umadas we in the cog, Pagnesian. He said, "This is the size of a hole that is in my body, that in my being, because my language is not there." So that was a big eye opener for me when he said that. And I couldn't imagine how someone would feel, with that missing from your spirit, from your body, from your mind, from your voice. It's been taken away from you. Sishma, when I first had an inkling, I was living up in Sandy, and students would leave in the fall and come back in the spring. And mi magano daman apen gegun and how no gawid you go uskad sa gabidaksino. That's when I would understand what happened to them over there. I have a friend, mi gaikadet sumadano yakke. It took him 30 years to tell me what had happened to him, which was every time I spoke my language. You're a kid, and that's all you ever spoke. And when you get to residential school, you're talking to your friends. That's what comes out is your language, because that's what you use all the time. And he said he would get struck on his hand when Jingas back there. Me too, and magagawin chin sa daw yung daman kay ani ni basket my aminin dago kiwi we got to that what a person feels when you do that to them. Michima pin yung kiwi in dan isigisyon che kagwe wich to an gain hawe gagi noon dawag ikadut michwe hiwege kutak hawe gagi to dagwak. We have to reconcile with those people that did those things to us.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about, we're all together here, and it's about living together.
Yeah, and so it's because when we're sharing that time, right, in that space, and actually with how connectivity now is even on a broader scale,
Mm-hmm.
and because people are like hearing those stories, right, and bringing understanding to it,
Mm-hmm.
and like we're speaking with Dr. Hopkins now, right across the province, right, and
Yeah.
then and we have our viewers and people who are at home. We have Mr. Tommy, who's in the booth helping us out here. But I really like the way this conversation is going. So I just wanted to put it to both of you now, inviting Rhonda back onto the air.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Rhonda.
Oh, bonjour, Jeremiah.
Bonjour, bonjour.
Yeah. So how would you like to how do you describe how the origin of the language like um, came like obvious? You can't just go, oh, we just always we had it one time. Like how did the use of language reflect our culture? Who would like to talk about that first?
Ladies first.
Oh, she's Mati. Wow. Um, no, so na getting didn't no na go to the ma. Um, can I go ya we opportunity weekend on Nishnabe Ejit mi the Bama Peters Bama Pigona we ka Nigtinak weekend on Ocean Schnabemat. Pat Sedona Gondak Nango is when you get the mot, economagasic. Tam Danishnabe me the Mot Nishnabe Mot Zewin. Then and Dumka. So what I'm saying is that um, um, the, our new learners, our new people that are Anishinaabe people that are learning to speak Anishinaabe want to learn the culture. They're all excited about our ceremonies and what we do. If you're hunting or something, and oje oje Augustin man about we see we meet with the months we sneak we so how we do our ceremonies, like even hunting, how we offer our prayers for the animal's life so that we can have a good life. So all these people want to learn the culture, but then they put the language later. And but if it's the wrong way. We should put language Anishnabemowin first, and then the culture will come, because in the language is where the culture is. Mije kinagego sastamokin gishpin goya mushkin Anishnabemat in the mage kidwinan gonane nin sastam bedmin. So they get to understand our words, because everything is built inside that word. And I often think about that. You know, simple things as people say bonjour, and they want to say bonjour in French. The French people do that. Oh, we sustasina, mandat martin, ich bin sustamot, mandana, when the bonjour. When about all these in Castle, but it's not big as the gossip must be it coming. And it was the spirit of the Anishinaabe person was put onto the earth. Now we celebrate that. We say bonjour when we greet each other, and because it says, I remember the creation story, because that spirit of that Anishinaabe, the Benway, you carry that. And so the creation story doesn't have to be mean when the beginning of time, when all there was darkness, the old creation story. There could be many different kind of creation story. Even if you look at a plant come into life, it's a creation story. At the beginning of the night, when the stars come out, it's a creation story. So if anybody wants to learn the language. It will show you what the culture is, and that's the origin. Now, how can come Jeremiah?
Okay, Rhonda, you know that thing you mentioned at the beginning, when language, people want to learn the language and they want to go into the culture.
Ah,
I think they should respect their teachers. I mean, it's okay to say, oh, I'd like to learn about my culture, all the ceremonies and everything else. But if you want to learn about your language, about your culture, about who you are, there's a teacher for that. Every community has these teachers. It's either your parents, grandparents, or somebody that's in your family that is a knowledge keeper. So when they say they want to learn a culture first, I agree. I agree with you when you say that it should be the language, because the language is uh, what fills that hole in that man's chest that he told me that he felt every day. And one of the things that I notice is that when you are outside, see this whole thing about learning the language, it's not just about words or things. When you're outside, the way the Creator designed our bodies, our spirit, and is that we have to get the energy that we need to fix our system, our body, is to be outside and to participate in the ceremony that is life. To go outside right away, what happens is if you take your shoes off and you sit on the earth and you plant your feet down on the grass. Mia pinugazahimawin che we chick shemando donachigeon. Right away, the Creator's blessings come from the earth, because that's what we're made of. Mimagaunchu wishiguak. All the minerals and everything that's in the earth is what's in our bodies. And when I think about these things, when ako gamam the man mawaj beach man daw nagwan o kendamon kshemando. It's just absolutely amazing, how ingenious these designs are. And you can't do anything else but to say thank you when you see these things. So, when Rhonda, when you say these people that want to learn the language, and are, you know, trying to tell you how to run your knowledge keeping business, I think they have to listen to the community, and the community says, go outside, go and learn from the Creator's classroom, and that's what that is. Gakanage gunwa dagayag kiwichigun miwe nachiget kshimando. Everything that's outside, the sunlight helps your eyes and helps your skin. The wind blows off all of the things that attach to us during our day-to-day lives here in the community. That happened to me one time. I went home to Sandy Lake and I boarded my father's outboard and boat. And I went down on the lake. And as I was sitting there, it was blowing. It's like I had these little, very thin layers of negative energy. Hiwen wan gan pinagong segan gabapamian hiwe gagis gakawiage ga kwanda gamat kanon shit. When somebody says something negative to you, it attaches itself to you, and that's what I found. Quite a surprise. When I was driving on the water, they were just blowing off left and right, and then at the very end, that's me. There's me, you know. And I thought that was such a fantastic education for me. But getting back to this medicine that's sitting on our table, that's one of our biggest teachers. And we have to teach our students, the ones that are learning our language.
Yeah, and just so Rhonda knows, we have a bowl of Kijik with a tobacco tie, some
Hmm.
on there.
Oh,
Yeah,
she couldn't see.
I don't think
Oh,
so. No, she's
okay.
on the phone.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, Rhonda. Yeah, Mr. Chiwe, um, that's one of the things that, in my educating myself, trying to fill the holes that are in my body, in my system. That's what I'm finding out is that the Creator has such everything that's around us was made for us, wasn't made for anybody else. Like the animals, the universe
Hmm.
is there because we're here. That's what
Ay,
I.
gunis tatonwa and
Mm,
Jeremiah.
mm-hmm.
Nash manda. Nigo geni nasap enendma. Ispin goya gaigo mem kach goya dak chijiskesi. Migo wetgo zagchitman and daik. Mije kinagego temgok extra pitendagok. Mije gujemne dot queshkut zagchitman we going. Denendam. So you don't have to do a big ceremony like la, 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 that kind of ceremony. It's part of our lives every single day. When we step outside our house, migo, that's when you're in ceremony.
Yeah.
And I think some people misinterpret the word ceremony, especially our new learners. But
Mm-hmm.
if you are born with the language, you
Mm-hmm.
understand this if you're born with the language. And some seven grandfather teachings. Manda Sagitwin, Debwewin, Nadenwin, Bokawin, Badendiswin, Quakodzwin, Minoa Akdewin. So I was in a room and then there was elders meeting up to go Gigi Saxon, we opened the Gogon that Chinchinabit. And so they were sitting in this room, all these elders, and I went there just to listen because I love listening to them. Me said, Anishmaba would no to show the asthmatic on the knobs in Chiganak. Neither should the in Chiganak, and Sebebeshik, Awok, Nisho, Sweden, Shum Sinanic. So they had the seven grandfather teaching pictures. Each picture represented one of the seven grandfather teachings. And so, like love, truth, respect, wisdom, humility, honesty, and bravery. Mishmaba, Kinchinabé, Kadatgano, Batman, was one elder looked up at them. Nishka, she goes, He gondaki gutuka sotre asmatic. Bizim chigadak. Mi jegi batash noat, wandak nijo sweden shumpinanik. En sagishgak vinweg gadamwenananik gondak. Eje skiptoin deginwe. So what she said was, when I look at these seven grandfather pictures hanging on the wall, when we started putting them on paper and drawing them, they got stuck up there. But we're supposed to carry that every day in our life. And if we didn't do that, we would have been able to carry them because everybody associates those seven teachings with pictures now rather than within themselves. That love, truth, respect, wisdom, humility, honesty, and bravery. Sagadwin, Debwewin, Manadenamowin, Bokawin, Badendiswin, Quakodzwin, Minoa Akde Ewin. So, yeah, that's the way I see things. So, but first language speaker, it's just built in there.
Well, I love where this conversation is headed. And so, just to keep on with the flow of our show, we are speaking with Dr. Rhonda Hopkins. For those people who are just coming in and just logging in and seeing our video, that's going to be out in the wide world. And we're with Master Linguist Jeremiah Sawanis, who's here in studio. We're going to take a minute to catch our breath, though, and in a few minutes we'll be talking about some of the complexity and secrets of the Anishinabemowin and
Well,
Anishininowin.
I think, Elliot, you need to make sure that your listeners are understanding there's two dialects here.
Right, Anishinabemowin and Anishininowin. That's
Anishininowin.
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 Aninanimowin.
Perfect.
There you go. Yeah, learning all the time. There are two dialects. There's two speakers, two different languages. That's why we have to. That's why we're on today, sharing our language. But first, well, to transport us and give us a little bit of a break, we're going to be transport us on our journey. We're going to hear from an Indigenous artist local to our neck of the woods. Asana B has his roots in Sandy Lake, but grew up in the Kaministic River area outside of Thunder Bay. Asana B played here in Sioux Lookout this past February, and here is his newest single, Without You.
All of these lights, all of these things I left behind. I was just searching, and I was just looking for some peace that's mine. All of these dreams, all of these hopes that age with time. I was just searching, I was just looking for some peace that's mine. One thing I know, everything comes and goes with a price. Am I without you? Am I without you? Without you? Am I without you? Am I without you? Without you? All of this hate, all of this pain, was it worth it? No, in the end. All of this hate, all the decay. If we cut the root, do it grow again? One thing I've come to know, everything comes and goes for a price. Am I without you? Am I without you? Without you? Am I without you? Am I without you? Without you? Never thought I could grow again. Salt to the earth I loved and lived. We grew apart, and I watched you go far. Am I without you? Am I without you? Without you? Am I without you? Am I without you? Without you?
Well, that was Asana B and his song "Without You." He was a big winner at the Junos last year. He won Songwriter, Album, and Indigenous Artist of the Year awards, and so it was a big year for him. And he's been traveling all over the world now. So maybe we'll get him on here in the future, which would be great because he is around. Funny guy. He's got a great laugh too. Anishinaabe, they like to laugh, eh?
They sure do.
And he has the whole like it's
Yeah.
awesome. But we'll have more of
Just
that.
like, although he's not an Anishinaabe, Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Dog the Bounty
Yeah.
Hunter. Yeah. R.I.P. Dog. Okay, so for those of us just coming in and logging in or posting this and sharing it, listening to it on podcast in the future, here we go. We're speaking with master linguist in Anishininowin. Nimoin.
Yes.
And
Anishininowin.
Anishininowin.
Right, you got it.
Jeremiah Sawanis and
See, this is what learning a language sounds like.
there you go.
Yeah,
Like I talk like I'm like a little kid. Well, actually, I'm a grown man, so it's
yeah.
even harder now.
From
But
Sandy Lake.
Sandy Lake style, and then Anishnaabemowin speaker Dr. Rhonda Hopkins, and we're getting right back into our conversation here. But it's funny to me when knowledge keepers or language people who hold a language or language holders, I don't know, you kind of get that people give you that title. But
Hmm.
how do you and Rhonda, how do you feel about when people are like, because in Anishinaabe they don't call each other that.
No, they don't. And, it's something that you have to get used to if you're living with Wemstegosha, our youngest brother, the white man. And that's what he does. He gives these big titles. He likes to give big titles. But for us, this is how our life is. Miwe is na wakib matsunan. Awiyaga awiyagans dawin mach kegon ni hiach. Begwan begukekon awiyaw kendamawan andawin daman skunkanink. There's somebody like that in your community. When you're looking for somebody that is good at doing this or that, you can find them in your community, and you have to know what you're looking for. Miwe is a kind of man gaining. So we're equipped with enough knowledge keepers of all the various things in our community for us to be able to move ahead with our community and as Captain Kirk would say, prosper, right? Um, I wanted to mention too, one of the things, if you are looking to reclaim, because you never lose your language, it's always there. Kshemando ogiaton huma. And once the Creator puts something there, only He can take it away again. That's what I understand about that. I was in Sandy Lake. I was young at that time, maybe 16, somewhere in there. I met this Ojibwe man, and we were talking. There was a school area, and there was a teacher age, what they call where the teachers live. And the teachers were gone, so he came. I forget what he was doing, but he said this to me: "My voice carries beyond the stars." And I heard something. I didn't know what it was, but what he said told me I have to hang on to this because I want to find out what he means. And some 30 years later, maybe 40 years later, I found out what he meant. Why he can say his spirit, his voice carries beyond the stars. And that's part of how, when I mentioned how ingenious the Creator's design of our body, of our systems.
Was he speaking in Anishininowin?
No, he was speaking in English and in Ojibwe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, ngi Ojibwe mikiwen kaya kiwin tamaushit. And so I had to go and find what he meant by that without, he wasn't there anymore for me to ask him, now that it really intrigued me. But I did find out what that meant when he said, "My voice carries beyond the stars." I asked the Creator one day. I have a little understanding of how my mind works and my body, but my voice, my kawanchikitian, I know that when I pray, I know I'm using it. Gina, kshemando. Nanda ni shwasagizga. 7 days later, I got my answer. And I was visiting a friend and his family. And this little boy at the kitchen table turned around, and everything was going around here. And he said, "Your spirit is your voice," he said to me. And I had asked that question about 7 days before. And then I understood what that man meant when he said, "My spirit, my voice carries beyond the stars." Because our spirit is our voice. When you hear me talking, you know it's my spirit that you hear. But the youngest brother, the white man, will say it's your diaphragm.
Mm.
But that's not what our people say. So, mihui gaya batstuyan tasugis gagagwe kentaman and that's what you're using. You're using that voice that the Creator gave to you. And that's why it's a ceremony. Every time you say something, it's a ceremony. From the time you wake up in the morning, when you open your eyes, that's a ceremony because you're beginning your day again. And, you know, this is what we have. And if you want to learn your language and take it back because it went somewhere, you can do that. You can take it back. And you have all the resources, you know, that you can use to do that, to make yourself better, to fill that hole that's here.
Yeah. Would you like to add to that, um, Dr. Hopkins?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm just going to jump back to your question there about being called a knowledge keeper or keeper of whatever. Um, I always look at people have gifts, and I agree with Jeremiah. And people have gifts, and I tell my students that all the time. I have students from all over, and I don't have all the answers. And do not we help each other. It's reciprocal. Gargo gargo shene shando nani wasi kino maga ke no wanda kino mago. So I don't just give the students information and they regurgitate it back to me. They teach me too. So it's really reciprocal of the gifts that they are. But one thing about when you call people knowledge keepers or elders, whatever name you give somebody, people give those names. Amigwewok, Nen Noswinan. They give those names. But I would never call myself that because I don't have enough humility. I need to be humble. We know I don't say that to as having bragging rights to call myself that. So that's why I'm very kind of the ongo mesgoyen do kushin kande satke ok week chipti 10 dogs it. I'm very careful when I hear people call themselves those honorable names because those are not because we're not greater than the Creator, but those names are given to us, and we let people use them if they want to use them, but we don't call ourselves those names. And then getting back to this communication, means of communication that Jeremiah was talking about, I was just thinking about one story. So there was a story a long time ago my mother shared with me, but the story is, first of all, the teaching is, and is that when you hear the drum and people are chanting, when you hear that chanting, so my mother says to me, when she get on, she says, what is that? I don't understand what they're saying. She says. Anishinaabe speaks in a good way. They don't just yell out, she says. And so anyway, Nidashmanda Enak, this is what I told her. I says, your heart is full. Gawin Kishtosin, we Kidian Kenegego Pinamayan. You're not able to say everything you want to say when you pray, because your heart is so full and it has lots to say to Jeminado. So then it starts to come out in a chant. And then because you can't speak it, your spirit speaks it for you. And that's why I agree with Jeremiah there. And so my mother says, so my brothers, they were on a drum, they were drumming. And so she went over there, she goes and said, so she went again to go and listen to them. And she sat there. And later on she told me, Yon Donis, Dio Bisendoake. Make Shogomaba Gemnedo Arshimajin shit the Vidagona, Pedagogin Bonina, she says. And she says, when I did that, she says, when I understood what that chant is, she goes, the praetor came to pick me up right from where I was sitting, which is her wheelchair, and it took me all over the place to see what was going on in that gathering, she says. And she held that so up to the socks tone. She really loved it. So anyway, that's my addition.
Yeah, no, that's and in previous conversation with Jeremiah, we've talked about how sound moves and how sound connects people, and even through sound, it's complex. Even
Jeremiah started to touch on that a little bit today about that vibration and that energy. I really like that because I'm a strong believer of it as well.
Okay, as much as I would love to keep on this conversation, we only have an hour for our show, so we're gonna have to have a part two to this at some point. This was amazing. This was this one stop after another. So I just want to say, Dr. Rhonda Hopkins, PhD, aka MOM, the and Jeremiah Sawanis, master linguist, and then
Sometimes I think you're making fun of me.
well, that's what Anishinabes talk to each other. Yeah, that one guy who knows some stuff. That's the
Jeremiah is Master Jedi.
Master Jedi Sawanis, and but I want to just say a big miigwech for you from our listeners from Wasa Distance Education Center here, and we're part of the Distance Wasa Education Network. We are also this is INDigital voices that everybody's been listening to, that you've tuned into, that you've downloaded as a podcast. Because we're going to be all over the internet eventually with our shows. So you've been listening to Indigenous Voices here on Wasa Distance Education Network, live from our studio in downtown heart of Sioux Lookout, and we'll be right back in just a moment. this is just a little extra segment that I added into the show just to give us a little bit of movement and a little bit of difference in voices. And I do a little bit of writing on my own. So the last episode, we started in with a segment called 2 Minute Story. And this is the part two of a story entitled Smudge of Red. In part one, we were introduced to Ophelia Sunshine, a little girl camping in the woods with her stepmom Bren and her dad Jim. So here's 2 minutes on the clock. Well, Brenda is the first to see Ophelia come crawling out of the tent. The sound of a drum song echoes in the forest from the distant roadway sunrise ceremony. Good morning, oh, Brenda smiles warmly. Good morning, Bren, Ophelia smiles back. She got used to calling this woman Bren. It was as close as she could get to calling her mom. She can't remember when Bren started calling her oh, but it felt a little gangster, so she didn't mind. Bren and Ophelia's dad, Jim, have been together for a few years now. They got together a couple of years after Ophelia's mom had passed away. She was too young to fully understand what had happened. In her memory, she could only feel emptiness and remember her dad being sad all the time. In those years, she spent a lot of time at her grandma's. Ophelia knew something was different, though, when this new woman, Brenda, was around her dad. The difference was he smiled more. Brenda, moving into their house a couple of years ago, was when Ophelia felt the emptiness fill up with something else. Warmth. Warm. The hot chocolate warms her hands. She sits by the fire, warming her legs. Where's my dad? Ophelia asks, dazed out, staring into the fire. He went up to the line just before sunrise. One of the elders is leading a sunrise ceremony. Brenda replies while stirring the bacon sizzling in the pan. He should be back pretty soon. I told him I'd be cooking. You know your dad. He'll get back just as everything is ready. It's the makwadodam in him. He's hungry. Brenda gives a tickle to her side to snap her out of her fire trance, and they both giggle. Hey, what'd I miss? Jim asks, stepping into the camp clearing with a small bundle of wood in his arms. Nothing, just hungry bears in the forest, Brenda winks at Ophelia. Well, I'm looking for something too. Jim grabs his woman around the waist. I'm holding the last of our breakfast supply in this frying pan. She smiles. Her smile has the edge of assertion Jim fell in love with. The end of part two. So, 2 minutes. And so next show we'll have in 2 weeks. We'll be talking about Anzokanan, as they say. And Anzokanak is the Anishininowin. Right. And we're looking forward to speaking with local elders and knowledge keepers to teach us about the culture and life on the land. We'll be learning the use of storytelling and how it supports in defining who we are as Indigenous people as part of Turtle Island. On another note, if you'd like to contact the show and you'd like to send some listener feedback and questions to INDigital Voices, we have a email now, indigitalvoices@nnec.on.ca. That's INDigitalVoices, all one word, at nnec.on.ca. And we're going to be scrolling into our end here. Thank you, staff of Wassa Distance Education Center. Special thanks to the man in the chair, Mr. Tommy Kuzumchuk, working the board. Chimigoch Kajemnaro, the creator of all things, for letting our voices into the air, coming together as one mind on the airwaves. And I've been your host, Elliott Doxtater-Wynn, right here at Wassa Distance Education Center. Chimigoch for your time, your attention, your friendship. And as we move forward, Bama Piminoa Kwabmin.